contain COVID-19 and that local authorities must take all the necessary steps to enforce the guidelines. I want to bring in my colleague and our political editor, Aishwarya Kapoor, who's joining us on the broadcast. Aishwarya, first up, which states in particular is the MHA hinting towards, which has reported highest violations of the MHA guidelines, and any response from these respective states so far?
Well, at this point of time, we are being told that the Ministry of Home Affairs has made it apparently very clear that the guidelines mentioned in Lockdown 4.0 are mandatory. So they have to be implemented without any doubt. Also, simultaneously, we are being told that there are instances, there are reports which are being sent back from at least 9 specific states where the relaxations have been given a bit more. That means the guidelines which have been mentioned in the MHA order for guidelines for Lockdown 4.0 are not being implemented the way they should have been. MHA and then the Cabinet Secretary, for that matter, in that video conference which he had with the Chief Secretaries, DGPs and the Health Secretaries of each and every state, made that clear that these relaxations are being given so that the life of the common man comes back on track. But simultaneously, you need to maintain social distancing because, Swesha, even at this point of time, there is no vaccine for COVID-19. The only known solution is social distancing. Government of India does not want a situation like Japan. Government of India does not want a situation like Singapore or like some other country where a wave 2 or wave 3 has really created a panic mode. So that is something which the Government of India is trying to erode, is trying to evade. And for that, social distancing needs to be maintained. There has to be a fine balance between getting the Indian economy back on track and then keeping the COVID-19 numbers at bay. Hence, for that, social distancing needs to be maintained, and the SOPs, that is the most important part, that the SOPs which have been mentioned in the guidelines for Lockdown 4.0 have to be implemented very, very strictly. And for the same, MHA has reissued an order stating that they have instances coming in from specific 9 states where they have seen that that in the name of relaxations, certain conditions which are mentioned in the guidelines are not being adhered to. In such manner, Government of India has the authority to act, and not only act upon the offenders, but also act upon those very officers who are responsible to maintain and then getting those guidelines implemented at those specific locations, Swesha. So yes, all of these things are being very micromanaged by the MHA because that is what is required. Social distancing needs to be maintained. Yes, government is giving those very specific relaxations only and only because it understands that for a company, for a country, beg your pardon,
Absolutely.
as large as India, to keep them under lockdown.
Oh yes, Aishwarya, that goes without saying. In fact, remains that India has been focusing on containing the mortality rate that is slightly above 3%, and the fact that the lockdown has yielded results, and which is why India is in a much better position in comparison to many countries that have been worst affected. But it still is important that we should not in any way go back in this fight against COVID. We should not recede. We have to move forward, and hence it is extremely important that there are no violations. All the rules, all the norms are strictly followed despite the relaxations that are given.
So
Aishwarya,
there be no doubt about it. Lockdown is the only way forward. Government of India has made it clear that further relaxations will be given, but at the same point of time, the SOPs have to be implemented. School, educational institution cannot open, malls cannot open, swimming pools cannot open. So at the base of it, at the core of it, any of those locations where social distancing can go for a toss cannot open any under circumstance. State governments have been given that very flexibility that in red, orange, green, and now the buffer zone, they can decide what should run. But then what has been mentioned in the MHA order as guidelines for Lockdown 4.0 cannot be do away with. And that is something which the Government of India, Cabinet Secretary, MHA, Home Minister has made it clear. And that's only being done because this is not about parties in politics. This is surely not about which party is in power in which state. It is about saving human life. It is about saving humanity. And as you said, lockdown seems to be working for India, and Government of India does not want a wave 2 or a wave 3 in India under any circumstance. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Aishwarya, thank you for those details.